LA Theatre Works presents Hold These Truths by Jeannie Sakata, directed by Jessica Kubzansky, sponsored in part by the California Civil Liberties Program from the California State Library. Starring Ryun as Gordon Hirabayashi, with additional voices by Matthew Floyd Miller, Suzy Nakamura, Matt Walker, and Greg Watanabe. After the 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, American citizens of Japanese ancestry faced increasing infringement on their rights. When thousands of these Americans were forced to report to internment camps, a young activist named Gordon Hirabayashi refused on the grounds the order was unconstitutional. His decision to resist resulted in a fight for justice that took years to come to fruition. And now, Hold These Truths, produced by LA Theatre Works.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. Do we indeed believe in the existence of self-evident truth, which by the very rightness of its being needs no human justification? And if we say such truths exist, how will they appear to us? In fragments or in full? Over seconds or over centuries? And when they are made known to us, how fully will we see them? Will our vision of them be dimmed by the darkness of human corruption? Our Quaker philosophy of life begins with the faith of George Fox, who said he saw an ocean of darkness and death, but also an infinite ocean of light and love which flowed over the ocean of darkness. And in that moment, Fox said, he saw the infinite love of God. Rufus Jones, our fellow Quaker, writes, "The ocean of darkness is a fact. The black squares on the great chessboard of the world are as unmistakable as the white squares. The real problem which always faces us is whether the black squares are on a white background or the white squares on a black." The Quaker philosophy of life insists that the black squares are on a white background and that an infinite ocean of love flows over a finite ocean of darkness. This is the basis of Quaker mysticism and of Quaker optimism, and of the universal spirit of fellowship and sympathy which belongs to these people who call themselves by the beautiful name of friends. This is what we aspire to. Aspire. To seek to attain a particular goal, to soar to a great height. And yet before we are able to do so, we must often plumb great depths. For example, the 65-year-old retired professor of sociology, who for over 40 years has sought, struggled, aspired to live by such principles, but has never been able to reconcile the stigma, the shame, the nagging sleepless voice saying, "No, it didn't happen. I refuse to believe it. The Supreme Court, I will never accept it." Yes, if the truth be told, that voice has never left me until today. Deru kugi wa utareru. Dad first said it to me. The nail that sticks out is the one that gets hit. It's an old Japanese proverb. To stay out of danger or harm's way, one must conform. One must obey. One must be inconspicuous. We'd hear it growing up on the farm during the Great Depression. Hoovervilles, hobos, jobless men riding railways, women and children in bread lines, and Washington State, still a western frontier. Its settlers hostile to newcomers. Newcomers, that is, like us. Deru kugi wa utareru. I remember the first time I knew I was Japanese. It was on this lazy Sunday when I was just 4 or 5, and my friend Tak was visiting, and Mom served up a picnic lunch. Chicken teriyaki, tsukemono pickles, onigiri rice balls, banana cream pie. And she put us in the ofuro, or outdoor wooden bath, and Tack taught me how to hold my breath. So I shut my eyes and held my nose and plunged below the surface. And I opened my eyes underwater and I saw Tack's face. He was blowing bubbles at me and sticking out his tongue. In that watery, blurry image, his nose, mouth, crooked teeth, his brown eyes, his black hair. It was like a mirror. And that's when I first realized I was something other. Someone other than what most people around me were. The fact that we were taking a bath outdoors in a wooden tub, the sticky white rice we ate, the prayers in Japanese. It was then it dawned on me, our way of life was other. In a way I couldn't articulate, but somehow simply knew. Later that day, Mom and I were walking near the railroad, and we saw a dog who'd been hit by a car and was badly hurt and whimpering, so I reached out and patted his head, and the dog licked my hand. Oh, it's okay, it's okay.
Don't touch that dog.
Mom looked up. She saw a man with a rifle.
Don't touch that dog.
Let's go.
But, Mama, he's hurt. He's hurt, Mama. He's hurt. Ima, ikimashou.
And my mother yanked me onto my feet and pulled me down the road, and by now I was screaming at the man.
He's hurt. He's hurt.
The dog lay still.
Get out of my country, you fucking Japs.
That night, when I was falling asleep, my mother came in to tuck me in. And she told me, you must never do that again. Speak that way to a white man. And when the light went out, I heard it again. Deru kugi wa utareru. Of course, I didn't always listen to Mom and Dad. And it was partially their fault. They didn't always toe the line. They're two Japanese issei who belonged to the Mukyokai, a rebel Japanese religious group known as the non-church movement. Pacifistic, democratic, no priest, no choir, no church. Just 4 families on fire for God, working the land on a commune. You know how fire produces both light and heat? Well, Dad was our guiding light. Some called him Baka Shojiki. Rough translation, stupidly honest. When Dad packed crates of lettuce to sell, he never put the best heads on top for the usual grand display. Dad always insisted that the bottom row has to be just as good as the top. And Mom, she was the heat. Feisty and articulate. She was the family dynamo, who in another era would have been a journalist or politician. She was elected vice president of our Japanese association, beating out all the men. She wrote poetry and read everything in sight. The Hokubei Shimbun, the latest Sears catalog, and her beloved novels. Late at night, by a kerosene lamp, she'd immerse herself in the dungeon scenes of The Count of Monte Cristo, or be swept away to the cotton fields of Terra in Gone with the Wind. Kono Ashley Wilkes. No backbone, ne. Kono Red Butler. Now that's a real man. Mom and Dad, though poor, insisted on some culture. We were the only family around with an Edison phonograph, which played Finlandia, La Traviata, and Jada Jada Jing Jing Jing. And somehow, Mom scared up the money for a square grand piano. It was her pride and joy. And strains of Stephen Foster songs like My Old Kentucky Home would waft out the screen door. Out to the fields, where my brothers and I were hoeing, thinning, fertilizing, hitching the horse to the plow. We lost money every season. Our whole family's work, down the tubes, year after year after year. I couldn't wait to get off that farm. And finally, I did. The University of Washington, Seattle, 1937. I'm a freshman student, newly arrived, when she catches my eye. A pretty blonde girl. I ask her if she'd point me in the direction of Eagleson Hall, and then she walks along with me and says her name is Esther Schmo. And she says, "Are you going to the mixer tonight?" And I say, I don't know. I really have to unpack tonight, look over the class schedule, and anyway, I can't dance. Esther Schmo is a peach.
Oh, wow. So this is Eagleson Hall. Well, hey, Esther, thanks a lot. Oh, it was really great to meet you. Yeah. Hope to see you around.
Hope to see you around very soon. Esther Schmo. On campus, I've got some pals at the Japanese Students Club, but the rent there is way too steep. So I opt instead for Eagleson Hall, a dorm at the campus YMCA where there are about a dozen of us, Americans and internationals, including my roomie Howie, who becomes my very best buddy. Up to now, my best friends have always been other Lyse, but Howie's being white is never a problem on the baseball field or anywhere else.
So, Gord, fastball. Lyse is second-generation Japanese born here in America, and Issei is the first generation born over there in Japan, right? You're a genius, Howie. Which one am I? And the wind-up. Oh! Jeez, Gord, you're someone who can't throw a curveball for spit.
Howie and I are both dirt poor. We roam around campus like two stray dogs, looking hungry as we can, praying someone will pity us and have us for Sunday's supper. Roast beef and mashed potatoes topped with homemade gravy. More often, we'd end up back at the dorm eating cornflakes and Oscar Mayer wieners. Yeah, I miss Mom's cooking. So, one night, the fellas and I sneak out to a diner for the Tuesday meatloaf special, and Japs keep out.
Hey, fellas, changed my mind. I'm actually not that hungry. Gotta start hitting the books, so yeah. See you back at the dorm.
Yup, college is no bed of roses. Those signs I saw when I was a kid, no Japs allowed, Japs not welcome here, they don't disappear. On campus, the Greek row frats declare they're for white Gentiles only, and downtown are the usual places we're returned away. Hotels, restaurants, swimming pools, the orchestra section of the Bijou where we're banished to the balcony. But I'm determined to circumvent them, and so I take to college life like a fish takes to water. Okay, not academically. As my folks were always reminding me, Gordon, anata wa chonan dakara, you're the chonan, the eldest son. And that meant pressure, to succeed, to excel, to set that stellar example, and I was terrified of shaming them in class if I blurted out something stupid, so as a kid, I'd shrink back in my chair and pray the teacher didn't call on me. But outside the classroom, I shone. And now I hit the ground running in the Japanese Students Club, the Y Student Christian movement, seizing any opening I can. As Howie says, Gord, your real major is extracurricular activities. And soon those all-night baseball talks turn into political debates. Racial segregation on campus, the rise of fascism in Europe, whether America should join in fighting it.
Land of the free, isn't it, Gord? So how can you not be involved? But secure the blessings of liberty doesn't have to mean war. The Constitution also says to ensure domestic tranquility. There are times when progress is best made by evolution, not revolution.
Not bad for a country hick. I get elected vice president of the Y Student Council, get asked to the Sadie Hawkins dance, and almost learn to jitterbug. Shop for a church with Howie and find the university friends. Friends. I like that. That's what the Quakers call themselves. I'm incredibly drawn to their view that God doesn't reside in any one religion or church, but instead in each man's heart, to be known as each sees fit. So Howie and I start hanging out there with Ellie, Helen, Ruthie, Faye, Kenji, Bert, Frank, and Esther. It's Esther Schmo with those terrific eyes, and I decide to join the ranks. Summer of 1940, the end of my junior year. I arrive in New York for a YMCA leadership training program called the President's School. And since the National Student Y is a politically liberal group, we're in seminars with A.J. Musty and Evan Thomas, all advocates of social action and opposition to war. And I'm just eating it up. But the question of pacifism isn't an easy one. Fascism is spreading in Europe. Mussolini in Italy, General Franco in Spain, country after country brutally overthrown by the Germans, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Norway, Denmark. And with England threatened next, impassioned debates are everywhere. Like at the Union Theological Seminary, where we work the noontime shift for meals. And then, when we aren't debating or working, we hit the streets of Manhattan. I take the subway everywhere. Chelsea, Harlem, Greenwich Village, Broadway, Brooklyn, Battery Park. Everywhere the blur of the city speeds past my window. Subway doors shut behind my back, not before my face. And in the midst of the city, amid the taxis, subways, trains, people everywhere, it hits me. They aren't here. Those signs in the windows, in the shops or restaurants, museums or movie theaters, or even in the coffee shop with the 15-cent chicken dinners. I walk up to that coffee shop, push the door, and go inside and sit down at a table. And no one asks me to leave. I go to a movie theater. I take my ticket and walk inside. And I sit in the orchestra section. I stand in line in a museum, I pay admission, head inside.
Hey, you! Come back here.
Here it is, I brace myself.
That's not enough.
Excuse me?
I said, that's not enough.
Oh! Not enough money, you mean?
What the hell do you think I mean?
Oh, right. Let me check. Gee, I don't seem to have it, but...
No student discount Fridays. Next!
Wait, ma'am, wait. One question, please.
Hey, wise guy, step aside. There are all these people behind you.
Yeah, if I had enough, I could go in.
Enough? Enough what?
Enough money. The admission price. If I had it, I could go in.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, you could. Now beat it, buddy. Scram.
I can't go in simply because I can't afford it. I let that sink in for a minute. I mean, back home in Seattle, I always have to think ahead if I go out with the fellows or if I take a gal on a date. I can go here, I can't go there. I'll get turned out of the Miramar. Better avoid Pacific Street, better take the long way around. But here, I spring for lots more of those 15-cent chicken dinners. Hit the Metropolitan on Tuesday nights when admission is free. Ride a bus to Harlem to hear a gospel choir. An elevator to the top of the Empire State Building. Feeling as if some heavy weight is lifted off my chest. Feeling a new surge of endless possibilities. Feeling as if I finally joined the human race. Back in Seattle, I take the plunge. I apply to my draft board for conscientious objector status, but idealism won't pay my bills. My trip has left me flat broke. Enter Woody Woodbury, the director of the Campus Y.
Gordy, you're in luck. The downtown branch of the YMCA just gave me a call. They need a receptionist at the front desk from 4 to 10 p.m., and I said I had just the man.
Good old Woody. I hightail it down to the Y, where I pause to read the bulletin boards with huge posters of the Y's outreach in Africa and Asia, and topping it all, a sign. Young Men's Christian Association, International World Brotherhood. The Y director greets me warmly. He's just returned from China after 4 years of field work and is back in Seattle to raise more money for the World Brotherhood program. And since his branch is downtown, he says, most of their donors will be coming from the Seattle business community.
It's a distinguished membership, Gordon, with some prominent citizens, and naturally we have a strategy for how to best approach them. Needless to say, it behooves us to be as diplomatic as possible, so that anything that impedes that process or could possibly be detrimental... Oh, sir, I assure you, I'm well aware of the courtesies that would need to be extended. Now, when would you like me to start? I'm sorry, Gordon, I can't hire you. Why not? It's nothing personal, you understand, but as I was just explaining, these donors are absolutely crucial to the funding of our overseas work, and though it is unfortunate, the possibility may exist that we could, well, offend, potential donors by hiring someone like you. Someone like me? Well, times being what they are. You see, when Woody called me, he didn't mention that you were... May I ask a question, sir? I'm an American, and the Campus Y vice president. So these businessmen whom you say might be offended by my presence, how could they possibly feel that way and then donate money to World Brotherhood? And, excuse me for being so frank, but by refusing to hire me, aren't you, well, violating the spirit of World Brotherhood in your effort to raise money for World Brotherhood? Well, I understand the situation that is. Thank you for your time. I guess this interview's over.
I trudge back to the dorm under a gray and gloomy sky. Woody.
Hey, Gordy, so when do you start the job?
Woody feels awful about what happened and lets me move into his attic while I look for another job. And And while I tend the furnace or sweep the floors or empty out the trash, I tell myself, look, there's a war going on. War. Europe is on fire. The Germans are on the march again in Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg. British forces evacuate in May and June from Dunkirk. Italy declares war on both France and England, and the Germans invade Paris. But now another turn of events, the alliance at the Axis. Germany, Italy, and Japan sign a military and economic pact. And now the air is abuzz with rumors of a Pacific War and of what the government is going to do to the Japanese living here.
Mom, shinpai shinade yo. Don't worry. If they try to do anything, you know I'll be here to take care of you. Daijoubu? Nani iteru no? If they do anything to the Issei, they'll do the same to you, Nisei. Mom, that's impossible. The Constitution protects us because we're American citizens. Don't worry, okay? Don't worry.
When the fall quarter of 41 begins, I move back to Eagleson Hall and catch up with Howie and Esther. And one quiet December morning, I'm walking to the Friends meeting house. The sun is shining, the birds singing, when Howie comes racing down the stairs.
Gordy! Japan has bombed Pearl Harbor. The naval base in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, has been bombed by the Japanese. The president's declared war. It's all over the radio. Gordy, you okay?
Doesn't sound real. It doesn't fit the quiet morning, the sunshine, the chirping of birds. I hear it, but it won't register. America attacked by Japan? No.
Fears of an imminent attack by Japan on the West Coast are sweeping through nearly all segments of the public. The entire Pacific coast from British Columbia to San Diego is preparing for possible raids by the Japanese Navy.
Let's not get rattled. There are thousands of Japanese here who are good Americans. We urge all our listeners that there be no precipitation, no riots, no mob law.
It would take several Japanese aircraft carriers together with a good-sized fleet of covering war vessels and fuel supply ships to carry on a sustained campaign against the West Coast. So while Americans shouldn't be too concerned...
Terror grips the West Coast as reports come flooding in. Smashed windows, death threats, houses set on fire, fucking Japs, kill the Japs. Are people getting picked up? Leaders being picked up? The FBI knocking on doors, arresting our fathers, handcuffing them. Young children clinging to mothers as agents ransack our houses. And none of us Nisei can escape the shame burning in our faces. We can barely meet each other's gaze. Mitz, Charlie, Tosh, my buddy Bill Makino, Yuki, Michi, Sumi, Lily, Tommy, Jiro. Our faces are the faces of the enemy.
Calm down, fellas. Listen to this. Every effort will be made to protect our alien population from discrimination and abuse. Francis Biddle, U.S. Attorney General. So we got the Justice Department's support. And President Roosevelt. He'll publicly defend us. Oh, yeah? Look at this, Gord.
Japanese in California should be under armed guard to the last man and woman.
Hurt 'em up, pack 'em off, and give 'em the inside room of the Badlands. Let 'em be pinched, hurt, hungry, and dead up against it.
If Seattle ever does get bombed, I think you'll see University of Washington sweaters on the boys doing the bombing.
That's from CBS Radio. Edward R. Murrow is blaming Pearl Harbor on us.
And then in March, an announcement from General John DeWitt, head of the Western Defense Command.
There will be a curfew. All enemy aliens or German, Italian, and Japanese nationals will remain inside their homes between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. and are forbidden to travel outside of a 5-mile radius. And this curfew will also apply to non-aliens of Japanese ancestry.
What the heck? Who? Non-aliens of Japanese ancestry? Someone who isn't an alien, someone who isn't foreign-born but is of Japanese ancestry? The Nisei. Us. Me. It's embarrassing. Offensive. They're singling us out. German Americans and Italian Americans aren't subject to the curfew, only Japanese Americans, and rather than the government admitting that, they're hiding behind this stupid... But when the curfew is announced, I never think to question it, and all my dorm mates become my volunteer timekeepers. We're studying at the coffee shop, and all of a sudden, Jose yells out,
"Hey, Cody, 5 to 8. 5 to 8? Heck.
And I grab my books, throw on my coat, paper spilling over my arm, and hurry back to Eagleson Hall. waving to other Nisei who were scurrying like ants to make it back. And every night is more of the same, till one night in the library...
Oh, Gold, 5 to 8.
I dash out into the pouring rain, down the stairs, the courtyard. If I run, I'll just make it, past the fountain and the flagpole with the flag drooping in the fog. The flag. And then this question hits me. Why the hell am I running back? I was born here, raised here. I am an American citizen. And some of my dorm mates... Jose is from the Philippines, and Frank is British, and Wang Chinese, but they're still at the library. And here I am, scrambling like the Dickens just to get back to the...
Gordy!
Some guys from Phi Kappa Phi.
Hey, Gordy, 8 o'clock. Time to go Betty bye. Hey, Gord, snap out of it. Criminy, you deaf? See you later, fellas.
My friend stares. I turn around and head back to the library. Across the courtyard, up the stairs, down the corridor to the left. I open the door.
Hey, fellas.
11 heads pop up.
Gordy, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing, Howie? Here now, what are all of you doing? We're studying. Yeah. Well, I am too.
Instructions to all persons of Japanese ancestry.
Posters everywhere. Sides of buildings, telephone poles, bulletin boards, posters.
All persons of Japanese ancestry, both alien and non-alien, will be evacuated from the following areas by 12 o'clock noon.
Evacuated?
All that portion of King County, beginning at the intersection of Roosevelt Way and East 85th Street, thence easterly along East 85th Street, extended to Lake Washington.
Oh, God.
Then south along the shoreline of Lake Washington to Yesler Way, thence westerly along Yesler Way to 15th Avenue.
No, they can't do this. We're American citizens. I stand there for a very long time, letting the rain soak me, letting the shock run through me. If anything happens to the Issei, they'll do the same to you Nisei. That's what Mom had said. That's what a lot of the Issei had said. And I hadn't believed it. I'd never believed it. Despite the firestorm of demands erupting from the coast, fueled by the War Department, who insisted we were a security threat and wanted all of us out. Demands for our removal, in the press, on the radio, in the halls of Congress. But President Roosevelt would never let it happen. I'd said it over and over. The Attorney General, the Justice Department, they'd never let it happen. We were born here, and the Constitution protects us. The Constitution... The humiliation. The mass exodus begins. Beginning with Bainbridge Island, every district around Seattle rushes to meet its deadline to expel everyone of Japanese blood living within its borders. We can only take what we can carry, 2 suitcases apiece, and we only have a week to get rid of everything else we own. So we haul it all to the front yard. Icebox, sofa, rocking chair, Mom's Edison phonograph, her black walnut piano. Dad burns photos, family treasures, anything suggesting ties to Japan. Bargain hunters, scavengers swarm over our homes and businesses.
Japanese evacuee must sell 1937 Pontiac coupe. 4 very good tires. A1 mechanical condition. Cash, $250.
Japanese evacuee must sell 50-room brick hotel, linens, furnishings, steam heat, living quarters, garage.
Japanese evacuee must sell fruit market. Complete stock, fixture, scale, cash register. Full price, $300.
The losses are staggering, and through it all, utter confusion.
My name is Hazel Wu, and this is my sister Grace. Our mother is Japanese, but our father's Chinese-American. Will we have to leave?
Colonel Carl Bendatson. I'm Father Lavery of the Maryknoll School. We have an orphanage with children of Japanese ancestry. Some of these children are half Japanese, others 1/4 or less. Which children should we send?
I am determined if they have 1 drop of Japanese blood in them, they will go to camp.
At the end of winter quarter in March, I drop out of the university, and I sign up with the American Friends Service Committee, a Quaker group helping families move out of their homes. We pack up boxes, arrange for storage, prepare the children to carry their things on the trek to where? Where are we going? For how long? Nobody has a clue. I drive them to the Puyallup Fairground Assembly Center, where they'll stay till they're shipped to their final destination. Puyallup, where we'd always go for the annual county fair. where we'd pitch pennies, eat hot dogs, ride the Ferris wheel. But now, when we arrive, barbed wire, miles of it, stretched on wooden posts, snaking across the fairgrounds, surrounding the entire... They're putting us behind it. Like pigs. Like cattle. There, over by the grandstands, they're moving us into horse stalls. The stench. I can smell it from where I stand. May 10th. The day arrives. The notice goes up for my district. The day of departure? May 16th. A week. 7 days. And there it is in black and white. Everyone with 1/16 Japanese blood must go. So I start to pack. Friends drop in to say goodbye. So many I have trouble getting it done. I'm boxing up my books and I drop one from freshman civics. America, land of the free. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, provide for the common defense, secure the blessings of liberty. The blessings of liberty. And the words burn on that textbook page. No person shall be held to answer for a capital crime unless on an indictment of a grand jury, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I phoned my friend Art Barnett, a young Quaker attorney, and tell him I've got some questions. I grill him on the Fifth Amendment and...
Gord? Why are you asking? What the heck are you up to? Gord?
I hang up the phone. I get my Nisei buddy Bill to come over before I can change my mind, and after we agonize all night, we shake hands, declaring we'll buck this thing together. But only a few hours later, Bill.
Gordy, I gotta talk to you. Gordy, I just can't do it. My parents are getting on, you know, and I'm an only child, so all they have is me, and if something were to happen to them, I would never... Good luck, Gordy. You got a lot of guts.
Bill's situation is different from mine. My brothers can look after my folks. They won't be left alone. But back in my room at night, I stare at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Heart pounding, stomach churning. 'Cause now I'm on my own. And it gets worse from here. Mom. I break the news to her that night, but the word's already spread like wildfire. She stands there calmly, arms folded. She tells me she agrees with me, praises me for a courageous choice. But these are dangerous times, she says. If I don't go with our family, we may be forever separated. Rumors are flying up the coast that we'll be thrown into jail for years, shipped back to Japan for good, taken to the desert and shot.
Mom, please, listen to me. Eddie and Jim aren't kids anymore. They know how to take care of themselves. You and Dad and Dick and Tosh, you don't need me to go with you. No. You have a special duty. You're the chonan, the eldest son.
Then she lets me have it. Our home is being flooded, she said, flooded with phone calls hourly from friends, neighbors, relatives, Japanese community leaders.
You've got to make him change his mind.
You've got to make him understand. We have to obey the government.
We have to prove our loyalty. Look at what they're doing to us.
They're terrified you'll make them suspect too. How can you put them in danger? How can you be so selfish? Mom, when I was just 5 years old and we were at the Seattle Sears, and that guard was staring at you, and you said if they accused you of stealing, you'd protest and sue the police. Then you and Dad lost the farming commune because of the alien land law, and you went to court to fight it. Makatawa, yes, you lost, but you tried. Do you have any idea what the government could do to you? They might beat you, torture you, or leave you to starve and die. They could throw you into a dungeon like the Count of Monte Cristo, and they may never see you again. Gordon, you have a responsibility. Yes, I have a responsibility to live by my own principles. Just this once. Put the principle aside. Gordon. Onegai. Mom, no. Let me go. I'm gonna do this. I am.
And then she crumbles, sinks to her knees and weeps.
Mom.
We part ways. May 13, 1942. Over and above any man-made law is the natural law of life, the right of human individuals to life and to creatively express themselves. No man was born with the right to limit that law. This order for the mass evacuation of all persons of Japanese descent denies them the right to live. It forces thousands of energetic, law-abiding individuals to exist in a miserable psychological and a horrible physical atmosphere. It kills the desire for a higher life. Hope for the future is exterminated. Human personalities are poisoned. Over 60% are American citizens, yet they are denied, without due process of law, the civil liberties which are theirs. If I were to register and cooperate under these circumstances, I would be giving helpless consent to the denial of practically all of the things which give me incentive to live. I consider it my duty to maintain the democratic standards by which this nation lives. Therefore, I must refuse this order for evacuation. Signed, Gordon K. Hirabayashi.
Mr. Hirabayashi, you are under arrest.
May 16, 1942, King County Jail, Seattle. Dear Howie, things are so quiet here on Jefferson Street. The sun out, the air lazy. It's very difficult to realize all that has happened in the last 3 days has actually happened. I'm now being guarded by two splendid privates, Earl Hawley of Tennessee and Joseph Jones of Alabama. Boy, have these two got the accent. A Captain Ravisto of the U.S. Army calls me to his office. He offers me a cup of coffee, cream and sugar, a napkin. He briefs me on the success of the uprooting process.
100% cooperation in Northern California. 100% cooperation in Southern California.
And when we finish our talk, he says he's confident we can both achieve the same for Washington State.
Now, Gordon, here is our proposal. We feel it's a shame your studies have been disrupted by this order. And if you agree to register, we will grant you an early release to continue your education.
Well, I appreciate the offer, but my answer has to be no. It's a matter of principle.
Yes, of course I understand. Well, let's talk about principle. The principle of family. What if we offer early release for your entire family? Shungu and Maitsu, Edward, James, Richard, Little to Shaiko.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Well, what about this? What if the Army kicked in a scholarship for your brother's schooling? We know about Eddie's aspirations to go to Guildford College back east.
I'm sorry.
Gordon, let me level with you. The number of charges against you could result in a very long prison term. Captain Ravisto speaking. Oh, hello, Colonel. It's going very well, sir. I'm sure we'll be squared away very soon. Well, no, he hasn't yet. But our discussion's been very fruitful. And yes, Colonel, I tried that. Yes, I tried that too. Oh, yes, I know you are. I'm very sorry, sir.
I ask if something's wrong. He says that was the Western Defense Command in San Francisco.
My superiors at the Presidio, who are obviously paying close attention to the outcome of our talk.
Oh, hey, Captain. Look, I know you're just doing your job here, and I hope you're not in any hot water just because of me.
Well, let's just say it would help us all if you agreed to register.
I look at Ravisto's desk, a photo of his wife and baby girl. We both sit there, racking our brains.
Captain Ravisto, I got it. Why don't you round up a couple of men to forcibly carry me to your car? Drive me over to the camp and dump me off at the entrance. That way you'd get your 100%, and I wouldn't violate my principles.
Oh, you know that just might work. Wait. No, we can't do it. We can't. Military orders strictly state that everyone inside the camps must be signed and registered. If you don't sign, you can't go in. It would be breaking the law.
Breaking the law?
This is LA Theatre Works' production of Hold These Truths by Jeannie Sakata, directed by Jessica Kubzansky. Our story continues in Hour 2. I'm Susan Loewenberg, producing director of LA Theatre Works.